here you can see that I have my model built, and once I have it built, I can actually, as long as it's an AutoCAD model and it's all built in AutoCAD, what I can do is I can actually make some drawings off of it using some of the tools that AutoCAD has in its modeling tools that it has up above. So the first one that I'm going to show you is Flatshot, and what this does is it essentially creates an elevation view from our model. So I can use my viewport, or my view cube, sorry, in order to set up that view. So if I want an elevation from the left, for example, I would click left. If I want a plan view, okay, I can use one of the top views, and I can start to basically create the views that I want using the view cube, and also by just orbiting my model around. Now, as I said, what this does is it actually takes a 3D model and it makes a two-dimensional drawing off of it. So the command for it is Flatshot, okay, Flatshot. And what it's going to do is it's going to come up with this dialog, and it's going to ask me a couple things. The one is if I want to insert it as a new block. So what it does is it actually inserts the drawing as a block into the model. What I can do is I can create an existing block if I've already created a drawing of it. And what I can do is I can export it to a file. This is actually my preferred way of doing it because what I like to do is I keep them separate. I like to keep my 2D and my 3D separate just so that it just doesn't get confused. So what you can do is you can actually create an elevation drawing from it, and if you choose export to a file. In this case, what I'm going to do, though, is I'm just going to actually just, insert it as a new block into my drawing. So I'm going to keep that as is. You can change the layer that you want, for example, for your foreground lines. So the issue with these is that you're going to have to go back and you're going to have to change the layers of it. Okay, because again, it's just going to bring it as a block. But what you can do is you can actually take the foreground lines, okay, and you can assign them by block, and you can give them a different line type. Now, what you could do is you could, change it by layer, and you can change the layer up here and start to work with it there in order to create less work for it. But what you're going to have to do in the end is you're going to have to assign your line weights to it, and you're going to have to work with the drawing and make sure that it looks like, a drawing with proper line weights, so on and so forth. So this I'm just going to leave right now as by block, okay? And obscured lines, so basically what that means is that it's, right now it's showing the obscured lines. So if you have any lines, of objects that are behind others, okay, right now it's going to show it, okay? What I do is I deselect that, okay, because again, that's just going to save the amount of work that I have to do. And then I can say create. Okay, and you'll see that what happens is what's attached now to my mouse is a drawing of it. So I can click and hit enter and enter and enter, and what it does is you'll notice there's a flat drawing. Okay, and if I go to my top view and rotate it so that north is facing north, okay, you'll see that this is a two-dimensional view of my model. And when I select it, you'll see that it's a block, so I have to explode it in order to work with it as a drawing. Okay, now they are two-dimensional objects. Okay, and it's a really, really, really simple and really easy way of being able to create drawings from your 3D model. I'm going to delete that. And again, if I want a plan view, okay, I can go to the top. I can type in Flatshot again and just click create. And create a plan view, hit enter, enter, and enter. And again, it's going to create a block of my drawing. So really easy way to do it. Now the next thing is that I can also create sections from my model with some of the same tools that you'll find if I go into my home and under my 3D modeling, if I go into my section, you'll see that Flatshot, the tool button for Flatshot is located there. But what I can also do is with this dialog and with these options is I can create a section. Again, from a model that's produced in AutoCAD and modeled in AutoCAD. So the first thing that I need to do with this is I actually need to create a section plane first. I cannot create a section unless I create a section plane. So I'm going to click on section plane. And what it's going to ask me to do is it's going to locate 2 points for that section plane. So if I want to take a section this way, okay, I'm going to click on 1 point, and you'll see that it's setting the plane. Click on another one, and it's automatically going to define the height. It's smart enough to figure out the height of the objects. And if I find that it doesn't intersect, okay, I can just click on it. I have my move gizmo, and I can move where that section plane is. And what's nice about it is, if I'm going to turn off, I'll turn off my not my ortho, but my object snap. Your snap might get a little bit tricky at this point, but you'll see that it actually shows in the model the gray shadow where it's going to take its section. So I'm going to click when it looks like it's in the middle of there. You'll see that when I rotate around, it is, okay? And what this does, so if I look at the middle, you know, there's the move grip, and there's also this little arrow that you'll find on either side of that. Okay, it's a little hard to see, but this thing right here is a little arrow. That controls the view of it. Okay, so that if I click on this, it'll flip to the other side, and basically that's controlling the view of where that section cut is looking. So if I want it to look this way, okay, I would have to click on that arrow and flip it so that it's pointing the other direction, and vice versa. Okay, so that now if I go under my section and I go to generate section, okay, again it's going to come up with a dialog box. First, what I have to do is I have to select the section plane. So I'm going to click on that button. I'm going to select my section plane, and it's going to bounce me back into the dialog. It's going to ask me if I want a 2D or a 3D section elevation. Okay, so I'll show you the first is going to be a 2D section elevation. I'm going to include all the geometry. If you want, you can select the objects that you wish to include. And again, under destination, insert as a new block, replace, or export. So this was covered under flat shot. There's also some section settings, okay, that you can get into, again, defining which layer you want the drawing to go on. I'm just going to say okay, and I'm going to click on create, and you'll see that now if I click, okay, and again hit enter, enter, and enter, if I go to my top view, okay, again, you'll see that it is a flat drawing. And if I go to my top view, you'll see that it inserts this drawing as a flat two-dimensional drawing. And what's hatched, okay, is actually where it's taking the cut. And this is where people tend to have an issue if there's planes, if they built their model using planes, because there's technically no solid to cut through, so they might not see this hatch. Okay, and then they have to figure out where that section cut was cut through. But here, what it does is, as a solid object, it actually shows you where it's taking that cut. Okay, so that is how we can take a section. Now what we can also do is, if I expand the section again and go into generate section, okay, you'll see that the command for it also is section plane to block as one word. You can type that in, or you can go to generate section. And if I click on my section plane again, I can now select 3D section. And now I can click create. And what it does is, if I click to insert it and then hit enter, enter, and enter, is I can also create a section of a 3D model. Okay, so now not only a 2D section, but a 3D section too as well is available to me when I want to create these sections. And you'll see again is, you know, where it takes that section, it indicates that as a hatch. Okay, now a lot of times what happens is that you're building a model using another program, okay, and you bring it into Autocad and you want to take sections of it. The issue with that is that that can't happen with these tools. Okay, that doesn't mean that you can't flatten, okay, this 3D model into a two-dimensional drawing. It just means that you can't use these tools. They won't work. Okay, so the old way of doing it before they developed these tools was to create what's called a DXB file. Okay, and to create a DXB file, what it does is it basically takes an elevation of it. Okay, and it's, you know, not really a filtered elevation, so you'll see that we have to do a lot of work with it after we create it. But to do this, what we need to do is we actually need to plot a DXB file. So to do that, to set up the plotter, I'm going to type in Plotter Manager. Okay, and typically that's not installed into your AutoCAD. Okay, so if you go to Add a Plotter Wizard, if you go through the dialog, so all you have to do is hit Next, and My Computer Next, and then you're going to find AutoCAD DXB file, which is the second one, and click on Next, and Next, and Next, and Next, and Finish. Okay, and you'll see that now it adds it to the list of plotters that are loaded for your AutoCAD. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to plot it like any other drawing. So I'm going to go to Control P or type in Plot, and under Name, okay, I'm going to go to my DXB file. Okay, and what you have to do is you actually have to set it up on a sheet with a scale. So I'm going to set it on 8.5 by 11. I'm going to plot, let's say, extents. And I'm going to center my plot. I'm going to fit to paper. So again, if you want to give it a scale, okay, let's say we want to get it quarter scale or a half, or you could even, well, you can't really do full scale because it's not going to fit on the sheet, and that's the way that it does that. So let's say quarter scale, and if I preview that, it might be too big. Okay, let's say window instead. Okay, so I can select that. Okay, so that's technically what it's going to look like. I can make it bigger if I want. Half scale. Okay, and then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit OK and just hit continue. That's fine. And then what it does is it actually saves it to a file. So I'm going to save it on my desktop where I can find it as my 3D chair. And it's a DXB file, so I'm going to click on Save. And this is fine, you can just say continue. And now what I need to do is, what it did is it printed it to a file, and what I need to do is I need to insert the file. So if I type in DXBIN, I'm going to find my DXB file, go to open, and wherever the 000 point is where it should be inserted, and that's usually where your your X, Y, and Z axis is. So if I move my model, okay, it's on top of that. So you can see it actually inserted it here. So if I go to my top view, you can see that it's located there, and it's a series of lines. Okay, and you'll see that it includes all of these lines, okay, that the other types of tools would obscure. Okay, so there is going to, have some editing to do with that after the fact. But if you have, as I said, a model that you created in another program, this is one way to work with it. Okay, and you just have to figure out where to trim the lines out, where to delete them in order to make them look like a legible drawing.